Hello, everybody. My name is Mr. Ferrante, and I'll be teaching you or showing you how to create a two-player Pong game on Scratch. So Scratch is uh, it's a great website, and essentially what it does is it simplifies a complex process in terms of uh, getting coding, stuff like Python and stuff like that. I don't think this necessarily uses Python coding. I'm not too sure. However, what it does do is it simplifies the process and creates these colorful blocks of text that has a bunch of coding in behind it, right? So basically it just makes everything much easier. However, as you learn, um, you'll get to know more of coding, and there are programs out there that are softwares or websites that have block text and coding together to kind of show you what each thing means and how that translates. However, in this scenario, uh, it's just block text. So, however, we'll be creating our two-player Pong game. This is the template we'll be using. I've created some sprites down here. Sprites are technically, not technically, basically objects, and you can choose a sprite. I just came in here and painted one out, and I created this ball using the circle, rectangles, and I created these bars. And essentially, it's kind of, these are you you usually see two-player Pong games or single-player Pong games. However, two-player Pong games are played on the same keyboard, using the up and down arrow key to go up and down. And then the other side of the keyboard, you'd be using the W key and the S key to go up and down as well for player one and player two. So, however, I have this stuff set up so you guys can set this up on your own time. That's very simple to do. However, what we have here is essentially what you'll be seeing when you come into Scratch. You come into Scratch. I'll be sending you guys the link, and you guys created your own account, and then you just come into and you'll see a create bar at the top, and it'll just bring you here. However, it won't have this. I just searched up a background right here, and then essentially I just came down to choose a backdrop and uploaded it, and then it just came here. And then when you create these, uh, sprites, it'd be really good to name them as well. Oh, whoops. Uh, Ball, player one, and then player two. So, good to name them just so you're more organized. However, this is where we'll be dropping our text in, our block text in, and we might as well just get started. So, um, just 1 second. I may pause it once in a while, just so. Oh, what did I do? I did something. Ha, 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 ha. Hmm. 1 second. Alrighty, I'm back. So, essentially, what we'll be doing is first programming our player blocks here to um, move up and down. So, what I'll do is first, what we can do. Uh, yeah. So, what we're gonna do here is first press the player one block, and then we'll come in and say uh, when the space bar, not the space bar, but this is player one. So essentially, player one is usually on the left side of the keyboard. Um, Player one will be W. So we'll come into W, and we'll say when player one's key is pressed, and you come into motion, and you say change. No, actually not no motion. Change the y-axis. So W is up, so we'll keep that at a positive number. So we'll say change the Y by 10. And if it's on the edge, so we don't want it to, so I'll press um, W right here. Oh, sorry, W. And you can see it's going up, but it's just going to go past, right? So let me just drag that back down. We'll center that stuff in a bit. We'll say if it's on the edge, it's going to bounce. And we don't want it to rotate if it does hit the edge, because if it hits the edge, it's going to naturally, or not naturally, but technically, it's going to shift to the left or the right. So we don't want that. We're going to say don't rotate. Essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that for the S key, And then I won't show you that just because that's just a copy and paste process. So be back in 1 second. Okay, so I have it so that when W is pressed, it's going to go up. And if I press S, it's going to come down. And I say change the Y by -10 because it's a negative value. When you go down in the Y-axis, it's negative. And it don't rotate. However, if I was to start the game, nothing would happen. It just keeps staying in the same spot. So what we'll do is when we press the green flag, we're going to literally go to, and then we'll just drag this to where we want it to go. Well, where we think is a good place for it. There we go. And then you just take this X value and this Y value, and we say -78 and -64. And there you go. So when I press this, sorry, let's just go down a bit. So when I press this, essentially it's going to reset. It's going to come back here. I'll do the same thing for this one. I already have some of this code, but let me just put that right there. Alrighty, so I've got this stuff set up so you can see, oh, let's just go to, it's going to be set. So if we actually move our arrows up and down, so I'm using the WS here, I'm using the up and down arrow keys here. If I press play again, it's going to reset. So now we're going to set up our ball. The ball's in the middle. I've already created the ball. It's good to have a small ball because essentially if you have a big ball, it's going to act in terms of scratch a little glitchy. Or a little haywire. So a small ball prevents those kind of getting stuck moments. So what we'll do here is we'll start on the ball. So we'll first grab repeat until. So repeat until, because, and we'll use the repeat until, and we'll use that little block here to input something afterwards. But essentially what we want to do is that we want the ball to start moving, right? So we want the ball to start moving, so we'll say move 5 steps. 5 steps just is a good speed. If you say 10 steps, it's going to go too fast for the movement of this. You want this to be moving a little faster than the ball, just so that you're not chasing it that much. And obviously, if it comes on the edge, it's going to bounce. So we'll plop that in there. Come back to events. No, control. Sorry. However, and there's a reason. One thing I'd like to mention is if it's touching this color here, these two colors have to be different. You can't have them the same because one's going to be touching to change the score and one's going to be touching to save it. So change this color and this color, have them different. If you're going to create your own kind of background, have it as, you can change any color you want, green and blue or green and yellow, and then have these as blues and red. But I just changed these to just a different shade than that. It's unlikely I'm going to get the exact color code of this right here. So what we'll do now is we'll say if, and then if touching the color, and then we'll pick this right here. If we're touching the color red, no, sorry. If we're touching this color red, and then we'll say in terms of motion, turn. And we're not going to turn 15 degrees, we're going to turn 90 because that's a full kind of turn around. And then turn 90 degrees, and then we're going to do the same thing for the blue color. We'll come back over here. If it touches sensing, if touching the color, this blue right here, then turn 90 degrees. Alrighty, so, however, what we have to do now is set up some variables. Variables are going to be the scores up here. So we'll make a variable, and it's going to be for all sprites, and we'll say player 1. Whoops. Player 1. Move that right here because that's the player 1 side. And we'll make another variable, player 2. And we'll move that onto that side. Perfect. So what we have to do now is essentially set up what happens if if the ball touches this red. Not essentially this, but what happens if it touches here? So let's first play and see how this plays out. It is not playing out. That is odd. Um, oh, that's my bad. Sorry, I completely forgot something. So we have this set up. That's fine, but we have to figure out what happens when we actually click the flag. So when we click the flag, um, we have to have the ball reset to the middle. So we're going to say go to x0, y0. And then we're going to have it say, and we're going to have it point in a direction. We want it to point not left to right or up and down. We want it to point at an angle, which is commonly 45 degrees. And then we'll just connect this right here so that when we press this, it's going to be moving around. However, when it touches that, nothing happens. However, if it's going to touch that, it bounces off. So there we go. So we'll stop that real quick. So now we have that set up. Now we have to figure out if it touches. So if events, no control, if it touches the color. Let's figure this out. Where is the color? Not sensing. If it touches the color this red, um, then what's gonna happen is that it's going to wait 1 second, and then it's gonna go back to the middle. We'll set up the scoring system in a second. That's gonna go in right here. However, let me just put in go back to 0, 0. 0, 0. So hold on 1 second. I'll just kind of duplicate this for that side. Alrighty, so I'm back. So yeah, I've added this in here. So if I press this, it's gonna hit that red, and then it's gonna wait a second, it's gonna go back. So, however, there's no scoring system yet. So that's what I mean by we're gonna start setting up the scoring system here with our variables. So first we're gonna set at the top of our coding, when this is clicked, we're gonna come to variables, we're gonna set variable, and we're going to have one for player 1 and one for player 2. Whoops, my bad. Let's stop that. Player 2, and we're going to set it to 0 so that when this is clicked, you can restart and you can play again with your friend. So that's set. However, what we also have to do is that I've used this block here saying repeat until. We could use a block called forever. However, you don't want to play it forever. You want to have a set score. You want to play until there's a limit. So we're going to have the limit as 5. So what we're going to come into first is operators, and we're going to use this block, and we're going to plop that in here, and it's going to say something or something, and those somethings are going to be these equals. I'm going to plop one into, oh, oops, see, this is one issue that you might know, well, that works. And you do another one right here. See if you can, there we go, highlight it, and then you'll come into your variables. You say if player 1 equals, and we'll say a score of 5, or if player 2 equals 5. So it's going to repeat until that happens. So essentially what's going to happen here, and I'll let it play out, is that it's going to reach, it's not even hitting, whoops, exactly, I forgot something. So, it's not counting the numbers because we haven't, so if it's going to touch this color red, and one way you can know that this is this red is that you're waiting 1 second and resetting instead of turning 90 degrees. So you'll have to change the variable. So what we'll plop it into is just right here. Change the variable, and since this is touching red, this can be player 2 getting 1 point. And we'll also change this right here to player 1 getting 1 point. So we come in here, that gets 1 point, and we'll just wait until that kind of plays out and, gets to 5, 4, and then the game's done. And if you wanted to play again, just play that and then it resets. However, that's kind of anticlimactic, right? There's nothing to say that you've won. There's nothing to say that this is it. So what we'll do is that we'll now create a text bubble to come up and say, you've won, or, player one wins or player two wins, and we'll do that. And we'll also have a little sound, and I'll show you how to use sounds. So what we'll do is we'll come down here, and I've actually already put this in here. If open block here, then else or else, and that you can find in control, and then it says right here. And I just kind of attach that to that. So we'll use a variable here or an operator, and we'll say if, and we'll put that in equals 5. Oh, whoops, my bad. If, and then we'll put so if player 1 equals 5, then we'll come into looks and we'll say, and we'll type in player 1 wins. And now it says if player 1 equals 5, then say player 1 wins, or else. So there's no other or else. There's only two variables. So if player 1 doesn't equal 5, that must mean that player 2 wins. So we'll say, or else say player 2 wins. And now, let's just test that out really quickly. So it's going to be counting, and let me just move this stuff around just to show that it works. I'm pressing the up and down arrow keys and the WS keys, and it's a two-player game. However, it hits that, waits a second, and then it says player 2 wins. Now we want a sound to come with that. So what we'll do is we'll come up here to sounds, and I have this pop here, but what we'll do is we'll come down to choose a sound, and we will choose a sound, and you just hover over these play buttons and it will play a sound. Oh, so we'll use this, maybe we can use something else. No. And we can actually search something up. Win. There we go. So we won. Now we have that sound. Now we'll just come back into our code and we'll actually come into sound here and we'll say play sound win until done for both. And so that, oh, whoops, don't want to, I accidentally clicked something. Hold on 1 second. I don't want to delete. If you throw it over here, it's going to delete everything. So let's not do that, right? So we have that set up. So let's wait until player 2 gets to the end here. There you have it. So that's essentially the coding for how to create a two-player Pong game. What I'd like to also do is kind of show you how to publish this. So you have this all set up, and this is how you can play a game with all this kind of blocks and stuff like that. So you'll scroll up here and you'll name it. I've named it two-player Pong game. So you can share it. So when you press share, it's going to share it, and then here you can write your instructions, your notes and credits, and then here you can actually play it. So you can show your views, your shares, your likes, all that stuff, and then we can play. And essentially that's how it is. So that's how to create a two-player Pong game. Quickly, just 1 second, I would like to show something. Hello. So set up my camera here just because I'd like to show you a ping pong paddle, just for the effect that, or just for the, how do I describe this? We're making a Pong game. However, it's not necessarily, it's not the physical game, essentially. End of line, end of story. It's not the physical game. However, we're creating a virtual kind of game using a very easy to use website, and it's very accessible and it's very useful. And you can create stuff like this through other programs that are more complicated. However, this is a fun game. And this is just the beginning of games that you can create through Scratch. You can do different variables. You can change how the variables look. You can change, not just, you don't just make Pong, you can make other stuff. So essentially what I'm saying is that, it's a great tool. It's not just for, ping pong or table tennis. That is the more competitive version of ping pong, I do believe, what they call it. However, we're going to stick with Pong, and something you can play with a friend on your keyboard. So thanks for tuning in. Um, I'll be sending you guys this link just after I'm done uploading this, and I'll see you guys next time.